Have you ever felt that silence in the middle of the night? The kind where every promise has collapsed, every hand has vanished, and you realize no one is coming. It stings. It leaves you staring into the dark, asking why life feels like a battlefield where mercy is rare and comfort is fleeting. I have learned that strength is not carved out in ease. It is beaten into shape by fire, by rejection, by betrayal. The world does not reward the gentle hope of being saved. It bends only to those who refuse to break. Fairness is not a law, it is a story told to keep men tame. So here is the truth. No one will hand you power. No one will guard your time, your energy, or your mind. If you do not guard them with a ruthless hand, weakness will gladly claim them for you. This path is not for everyone, but if something inside you stirs at these words, stay with me. Because what follows are the rules that can make you unshakable. The choice is yours. As we step into the first chapter, let me take you to a place most men secretly fear, the silence of their own undisciplined lives. Picture a man who calls himself free because no one tells him what to do. He sleeps when he wants, eats when he wants, wanders through his days with no anchor. At first glance, it looks like freedom, but look closer. His body is soft, his will is weak, his time leaks away like water slipping through open hands. He is not free. He is chained by impulse, by habit, by the tyranny of his own whims. Now imagine the opposite. A man who rises at dawn, not because he feels like it, but because he told himself he would. A man whose body answers to the command of his mind, whose hands move before excuses even form. He is not a prisoner of moods. He is the master of himself. This, and only this, is freedom. Epictetus once warned, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Those words strike like steel, because they are not poetry, they are a map. Think of the warrior sharpening his blade in the dark long before the battle trumpet sounds. The edge does not appear by accident. It is earned through repetition, through the small, unglamorous acts repeated until they shape destiny. The same is true of us. Every disciplined choice you make, waking early, training when tired, focusing when distracted, becomes a strike of the hammer against the raw iron of your life. And slowly, what was once fragile becomes unbreakable. I once knew a man who swore he was waiting for inspiration to change. He said he needed the right moment, the right spark. He waited for years, circling the same promises until the years themselves became his prison. Contrast him with another man I met in the military. He told me, "I don't need to feel ready. I need to obey the order I gave myself yesterday." That man rose through storms, through exhaustion, through loss, because his will was not tied to how he felt. His will was tied to the oath he gave to himself. That is discipline, and here lies the paradox. Discipline feels like constraint, but in truth, it is liberation. Without it, you are tossed about by every craving and every distraction. With it, you are steady, calm in chaos, unshaken in storms. Discipline becomes the silent contract you renew each morning. No matter what the world throws at me, I act. No matter what my emotions demand, I remain. Seneca reminded us, "The man who has mastered himself can lose nothing." This is the essence of power. Every great figure we admire, philosophers, generals, builders of nations, stood on this same ground. Not talent, not luck, discipline. Marcus Aurelius himself, ruler of an empire, still woke each morning reminding himself to rise to his duties, not to surrender to the comfort of his bed. If the man with the world at his feet required discipline, what excuse do we have? Picture yourself as an architect of your own fortress. Each brick you lay is a disciplined action. Miss a day, and the wall weakens. Stay faithful, and the fortress becomes impenetrable. That fortress is your spirit, built not in grand gestures, but in the small, consistent acts that no one sees. Over time, it becomes a citadel so firm that no insult, no rejection, no chaos can collapse it. But beware the lie of motivation. The man who waits for the rush of feeling will always remain a servant. Feelings are fickle guests. They arrive late, leave early, and never stay long enough to build a kingdom. Discipline does not wait for them. Discipline acts, and in acting creates the momentum that weaker men call luck. Let me leave you with this. Discipline is not punishment. It is power. It is the power that makes you calm when the world screams, the power that keeps your hand steady when others shake, the power that allows you to walk through fire and emerge sharpened, not shattered. Discipline is the root. Freedom is the fruit. And the man who holds fast to it will not only rise above his enemies, but above himself. Write these words into your soul as an oath. Discipline is my freedom. Say it, live it, because the moment you master yourself, no man and no circumstance will ever master you again. And from this foundation, we will step into the next rule, the one that reveals how choice itself shapes destiny. Moving into the second chapter, let me take you to a crowded street at noon, horns blaring, screens flashing, voices pulling in every direction. In that chaos, most men scatter. Their minds chase 100 signals at once, and their strength dissolves into noise. But there is another man, the one who walks steady, eyes fixed, unbothered by the storm. That man has learned the art of relentless focus. He moves like a blade through confusion because his attention is no longer up for sale. Now imagine your own life as that street. Every distraction calling your name, every temptation demanding you pause. And ask yourself, how much of your time has been stolen by things that do not build you? Marcus Aurelius warned. You will never stop being distracted until you realize how little time you have left. Time is the currency of the strong, and they do not spend it cheaply. I once knew a friend who had every talent a man could wish for. Sharp mind, quick words, a natural gift with people. But he scattered himself across too many pursuits. A project half finished here, a dream abandoned there. His fire burned bright but never long, because he never chose one direction to pour himself into. Years later, he looked back and saw fragments, but no foundation. Contrast that with another man I met in a monastery. He spent decades on one path, copying texts line by line, hour after hour. His hands were worn, but his presence was undeniable. He built something lasting, not by chasing everything, but by guarding one mission until it carved his name into stone. Seneca once wrote, "To be everywhere is to be nowhere. That is the trap of the unfocused." They mistake motion for progress, but progress comes only when energy is concentrated. A river that spreads into the desert disappears. A river that cuts deep through rock becomes unstoppable. Focus is that river. It takes the scattered strength of your mind and forges it into power sharp enough to move mountains. So guard your attention as you would guard your life, because in truth, it is your life. What you choose to fix your eyes on, you become. If you give yourself to trivial noise, you become trivial. If you hand your hours to shallow entertainment, you will have nothing left but shallow memories. If you bend to the endless opinions of others, you will drown in their confusion and forget your own voice. Every second matters. Every glance is a choice. Every thought is a brick in the house you are building. Think of the craftsman who spends years perfecting his art. He does not flinch when others mock his silence or his solitude. He knows that depth, not breadth, makes mastery. Or the warrior who spends hours striking the same form with his sword until it becomes instinct. That repetition looks boring to the restless, but it is the very soil in which greatness grows. Focus is not glamorous. It is raw, demanding, and often lonely. But it turns effort into results, potential into legacy. And here's where the Stoic heart beats strongest. Discipline without focus is noise. Focus without purpose is emptiness. But discipline fused with focus and guided by purpose becomes unstoppable. That is how you become sharper in thought, calmer in chaos, simpler in your direction. You stop scattering yourself, and the world begins to notice. Not because you shouted louder, but because you cut deeper. Let me tell you plainly, your task is not to do everything. Your task is to do the right things with such intensity that nothing can stand in your way. When you focus, resistance breaks before you. When you focus, distractions fade into silence. And when you focus, the world itself bends to your presence. So write this oath into your mind and guard it as armor. My focus is my fortress. Say it, live it. Because when your mind is fortified by purpose, no distraction, no temptation, and no weakness can breach its walls. Focus is not just a tool, it is the fortress that protects your destiny. Hold to it, and you will taste clarity that others will never know. And from this fortress, we step into the next rule, the one that teaches you how resilience turns every wound into strength. Advancing to the third chapter, picture the sky turning black without warning. Winds rise, rain cuts sideways, and what was calm just moments ago becomes a storm that tests everything in its path. This is life. No matter how strong you become, storms will come. They do not ask permission. They do not wait until you are ready. They arrive to see what you are made of. And the man who has not forged resilience will crumble at the first strike. Now imagine standing in that storm. Clothes soaked, hands trembling, heart pounding. You have two choices: fold under the weight of it or rise into it. Marcus Aurelius once reminded himself, you have power over your mind, not outside events. That truth is the anchor. You cannot stop the storm. You can only choose how you stand inside it, and that choice determines everything. I once walked with a soldier who lost nearly everything in 1 year: his health, his family, his career. Most thought he would break. Instead, he learned to adapt. He worked with what remained, built strength in small daily steps, and refused to bow to despair. He told me, the world already took enough from me. It won't take my will. That man did not avoid hardship. He rose every time it returned, and in doing so, he became untouchable. Resilience is not comfort. It is armor, the armor of the mind, the steel of the spirit. It is the inner voice that whispers, I will not stop here, even when your knees shake and the ground splits beneath you. Seneca once said, fire tests gold. Suffering tests brave men. Hardship is not the enemy. It is the forge. Without the collision, no mountain rises. Without the pressure, no diamond forms. And without the resistance, no soul is strengthened. Think of failure not as a grave, but as a teacher. Every setback is resistance training for the spirit. Each difficulty is a chance to carve deeper lines of strength into your character. A wrestler does not grow strong by avoiding the opponent, but by locking horns with him, learning through each fall, each bruise. The same is true in life. The challenges are not robbing you, they are shaping you into a man who cannot be broken. Here's where the Stoic path is clear. The resilient man does not pray for ease. He prays for endurance. He does not ask for fewer burdens. he asks for broader shoulders. He knows that greatness is never born in perfect conditions. When others retreat, he steps forward. When fear demands surrender, he answers with action. And every time he rises, the chain of weakness loses another link. I remember a craftsman whose workshop burned to the ground. Years of labor turned to ash in a single night. Neighbors pitied him, expecting him to collapse. Instead, he gathered the fragments, built a new bench, and began again. "The fire only took wood," he said. "It did not touch my hands." That is resilience. To rise through every storm, to rebuild even when the world expects you to fall, to keep your spirit untouched by the flames. Do not mistake resilience for numbness. The resilient man feels the sting, the loss, the blow, but he does not surrender to it. He lets the pain sharpen him, like a whetstone sharpening steel. He does not break. He hardens, he evolves. He walks through the fire, not untouched by heat, but untouched by defeat. Carry this truth with you. Your strength is not proven in easy days. It is revealed in the hours that would break a weaker man. It is revealed in how you rise when all seems lost. And when others look at you, let them see someone who does not bend, who does not yield, who grows sharper with every test. That presence alone is invincibility. So make this your creed. I rise through every storm. Speak it, believe it, live it. Because resilience is not merely survival, it is transformation. It is thriving when others retreat, advancing when others fall, and becoming a man who cannot be broken. This is where unshakable power is born, and from here we move into the next truth, the mastery of consistency, the quiet force that builds empires one day at a time. Entering the fourth chapter, picture the slow drip of water striking the same stone day after day. It does not roar, it does not rush. Yet over time, the rock yields, not to force, not to speed, but to persistence. This is the hidden law of life. The men who rise are not always the most gifted or the most fortunate. They are the ones who remain, the ones who show up when others quit, the ones who keep the rhythm steady long after applause has died. Now imagine your own path. How many times have you burned bright for a week, a month, only to fade when the fire of excitement went out? Passion shouts at the beginning, but consistency whispers through the years. And it is that whisper, repeated endlessly, that shapes destiny. Seneca once said, "Great things are not done by impulse, but by a series of small things brought together." Those words are a mirror. Your greatness will not come from a single act. It will be built brick by brick, day stacked on day. I once knew a runner who trained before dawn every morning, even when the streets were empty and no one cared. He was not fast at first, he was not graceful, but he was steady. While others trained with bursts of passion and then vanished for weeks, he kept moving, step after step. Years later, he was unrecognizable, stronger, faster, sharper. Not because of one extraordinary day, but because of thousands of ordinary ones. That is the quiet magic of consistency. Consistency is not glamorous. It is invisible. It is the man rising from bed before dawn with no witness, no cheer, no reward. It is the craftsman repeating the same motion until his hands ache, not for applause, but for mastery. It is the student reading in silence while his friends chase distractions. These moments look small, but stacked together, they become unstoppable. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." That is consistency. To live the standard daily, without excuse, without pause. And here is the secret. Consistency breeds momentum. Momentum breeds inevitability. What starts as a single drop becomes a stream. The stream becomes a river, and the river carves valleys that no hand can erase. When you remain consistent, progress compounds. Growth multiplies. Your presence becomes undeniable, not because you forced it in one act, but because you earned it across countless disciplined days. Greatness is not a lightning strike. It is the echo of steady steps. Each repetition adds weight to your foundation until no storm can wash it away. Do not underestimate the power of effort repeated. The man who commits to consistency becomes unstoppable because no single failure, no single setback, no single bad day can undo the mountain of progress he has built. Think of the builder stacking stones. Some days the weather turns, some days his hands bleed, some days the work feels pointless. But he keeps stacking. And when others finally look, they see a wall so high it cannot be ignored. That wall was not built in glory. It was built in quiet persistence. Consistency is not perfection. It is persistence. You will stumble, you will fall, but you rise again. Even when progress feels invisible, the act of showing up plants seeds beneath the soil. Seeds that seem forgotten until one day they break through with unstoppable force. This is why consistency is the great equalizer. It does not care about talent, background, or luck. It rewards only the relentless. So let these words become your commandment. Consistency makes me unstoppable. Write them, speak them, live them. Because when you honor that truth, success ceases to be a question of if. It becomes a certainty of when. And from this certainty, we step into the next lesson, the discipline of solitude, where silence itself becomes a teacher. From here, we step into the 5th chapter, and it begins not with noise, but with silence. Picture yourself in a room where the world cannot reach you. No voices, no applause, no distraction, only the sound of your own breathing and the weight of your own thoughts. Most men run from this moment. They fear the emptiness of being alone, so they drown themselves in noise, in company, in endless distractions. But the truth is this: solitude is not emptiness. It is the crucible where strength is forged. Now, imagine facing yourself without the masks you wear in the crowd. No one left to impress, no one to validate you, no one to carry the weight for you, just you. And in that moment, you discover something most never dare to find: who you really are. The man who fears solitude has not yet met himself. The man who embraces it finds a power that no crowd could ever give. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." That is the retreat you must learn to enter. Think of the warrior before battle, alone in his tent, sharpening his blade in silence, steadying his spirit. Think of the philosopher in the quiet hours of the night, writing words that would echo for centuries. Think of the leader walking the halls of solitude, seeing visions of empires long before anyone else believed. History remembers their strength, but it forgets the silence that birthed it. Solitude is not exile, it is preparation. I once knew a man who could never stand to be alone. His house was filled with voices, screens, endless company. He thought he was alive. But when the noise stopped, even for a moment, his face would turn anxious. He had built his life on borrowed energy, borrowed validation. Contrast that with another man I met in the mountains. He would spend weeks in solitude, reading, training, building his thoughts like a fortress. When he walked into the world, he did not beg for attention. His very presence commanded it, not because he asked, but because he no longer needed it. That is the quiet dominance solitude creates. Here's the heart of it. Solitude strips you down. It forces you to confront your weaknesses. It sharpens your thoughts into clarity. It makes you face the man in the mirror with no excuses left. Epictetus once said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid with regard to external things." In solitude, you learn this. You learn to stop feeding on the approval of others. You learn to feed on your own strength, and that strength cannot be stolen. Do not confuse solitude with isolation. They are not the same. Isolation hides. Solitude prepares. Solitude builds an inner fortress that no betrayal, no rejection, no storm can breach. A man anchored in solitude is immune to the chaos of others because he has learned to draw from his own well. He does not cling. He does not beg for understanding. He does not fear being misunderstood. He walks into the world with authority because he has walked first with himself. So make solitude your ally, not your enemy. Learn to enjoy your own company. Learn to thrive in your own silence. Read, train, build, think, create, prepare while the world distracts itself. And when the time comes, step forward, not as one who seeks validation, but as one who commands it simply by being. That is the presence of a man who has conquered solitude. Let this become your creed. Solitude is my power. Speak it, write it, believe it, because the man who conquers solitude conquers himself, and the man who conquers himself cannot be conquered by anything else. And from this fortress of silence, we move forward into the next law, the mastery of energy, the lifeblood that fuels every action, every fight, every victory. At this stage, we speak of fire, the invisible current that fuels every step, every word, every act. Without it, even the sharpest blade grows dull. With it, even the ordinary man becomes a force no wall can hold. That fire is energy. It is life itself. You may have strength, you may have vision, you may even carry ambition like a banner. But if your energy leaks into the sand, all of it dies quietly. The man who wastes his energy is the man who wastes his life. Now imagine holding a vessel filled with water. Every drop matters. Yet most men walk through life with cracks in the vessel, leaking their strength into gossip, idle scrolling, pointless conflicts. They wonder why they feel empty. The truth is simple. They bled themselves dry. Seneca warned us, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." He spoke not of hours, but of energy. What you guard, you grow. What you spill, you lose forever. I knew a man once who seemed always tired. Not because his work was heavy, but because his mind was scattered. He gave his vitality to every distraction that called his name. Compare him with another man, a craftsman I met in a small town. His life was simple. He woke with the dawn, trained his body, tended his work, spoke little, wasted nothing. His presence filled a room, not by noise, but by energy held in discipline. People respected him without knowing why. They could feel it. That is the power of a man who commands his energy. Energy is not endless. It must be placed with precision. Every thought you allow, every word you speak, every action you take either builds your power or drains it. Most men give it away freely like coins tossed to beggars. But the Stoic does not. He guards his fire like sacred ground. He knows his energy belongs only to his body, his craft, his purpose. Everything else is robbery. So, how do you command it? Begin with elimination. Cut what drains you. Refuse to entertain resentment or self-pity. These are thieves of the soul. Refuse to scatter your mornings into noise. Guard them as sacred. Refuse to pour your strength into shallow entertainment or empty debates. Then, double down on what empowers you. Sleep with intention. Train with intensity. Work with clarity. Speak only when words are needed. Move only with purpose. The key is not to do more, it is to do less, better. Understand this. Energy is not only physical, it is mental, emotional, spiritual. Keep your emotional energy clean by letting go of bitterness. Keep your mental energy sharp by feeding your mind with knowledge, not noise. Keep your spiritual energy strong by aligning your actions with your highest values. When all three converge, you become unstoppable. Marcus Aurelius lived under the weight of an empire, yet still wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." That truth remains. Control your energy, and you control your destiny. Picture yourself walking into a room. Before you speak a word, people feel something different. They cannot name it, but they sense it. That is the aura of commanded energy. The strongest warriors in history were not always the most skilled. They were the most alive, the most focused, the most unyielding in their purpose. Energy is the multiplier. With it, you endure. With it, you create. With it, you lead. Without it, even the brightest vision fades into silence. So etch this into your code. Do not waste your fire. Do not let trivialities steal your vitality. Guard it, channel it, command it, because a man who commands his energy commands his future. Let this be your oath. My energy obeys my purpose. Write it below, simple and clear, and let it remind you. And if these words strike truth in you, stay with me, subscribe, so we keep walking this path together. Because when your fire is guarded, when your energy is no longer scattered, you rise above the masses who squander theirs. And from this mastery of energy, we move toward the next law, the discipline of the body itself, where strength is no longer optional but inevitable. Advancing into the 7th chapter, we enter the battlefield that has always decided the fate of men. The mind, muscles weaken, wealth rises and falls. Circumstances shift like desert sand, but the mind, when sharpened and fortified, endures. It remains the throne upon which power sits. And if you are to build the strongest version of yourself, it is here that you must begin. Now imagine two men facing the same storm. One bends under the weight of fear, his thoughts collapsing into panic, his resolve dissolving like smoke in the wind. The other stands steady, his eyes clear, his breath even. Around him chaos rages, but within him there is command. The difference is not chance, it is not luck. It is the unshakable mind, trained, disciplined, immovable. An unshakable mind begins with clarity. Know who you are. Know what you value. Know where you are going. Without clarity, the mind drifts like a ship with no anchor, tossed by every wave. With clarity, the mind cuts through fog like a blade, unerring, precise. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. He knew the mind holds the true power, not the storm, but how you stand inside it. Each day the world will try to steal your attention, to tempt you into weakness, to drown you in noise. Distractions masquerade as obligations. Chaos dresses itself as urgency. But you are not common. You do not leave your gates unguarded. You guard your mind as a king guards his kingdom, allowing entry only to what builds strength, sharpens wisdom, and fuels your fire. Everything else is refused at the threshold. Thoughts are seeds. Plant weakness, and weakness will grow roots. Plant strength, and strength will rise like a tree. Do not waste the fertile soil of your mind on jealousy, fear, or comparison. These are thieves, silent, patient, relentless. They rob you of the empire you could have built. Instead, feed your mind with resilience, gratitude, vision, and strategy. Command your inner dialogue with precision. Speak to yourself not as a victim, but as a victor. When doubt appears, transform it into resolve. When fear knocks, meet it with preparation. When chaos strikes, respond with calm calculation. The unshakable mind never panics. It calculates, it adapts, it endures. And through this discipline, the world begins to recognize a man who cannot be rattled. Understand this. Strength of mind is not the denial of emotion, but the mastery of it. Anger, unchecked, consumes. Anger, mastered, becomes fire that fuels action. Fear, left loose, paralyzes. Fear, disciplined, becomes alertness that sharpens instincts. Pain, resented, becomes bitterness. Pain, embraced, becomes wisdom. Every emotion is energy, and the unshakable mind bends that energy into power. Consider the generals and philosophers, the leaders and warriors history remembers. They were masters of their own minds first. Epictetus, once a slave, declared, "No man is free who is not master of himself." This mastery was not built in comfort. It was built in hardship, in restraint, in daily discipline. And because they commanded the battlefield within, the world itself bent to their command. To build this strength, train your mind daily. Expose yourself to discomfort and watch your endurance expand. Study wisdom, philosophy, strategy, not as decoration, but as weaponry. Reflect in solitude until your thoughts sharpen. Meditate on your path until your vision clears. Sharpen your concentration with deliberate practice. And above all, test yourself in the fire of challenge. For the unshakable mind is not forged in ease. It is forged when the weight of the world presses down and you refuse to yield. Picture yourself in the center of chaos. Storms rage. Men fall. Fear thickens the air. And yet you stand, calm, steady, unbroken. That is the mark of the unshakable mind. That is the man who is untouchable, not because the storm spares him, but because it cannot move him. When you embody this, others will look to you for strength. They will not always know why. They will feel your certainty, your presence, your command. They will see in you something rare, the kind of mind that bends fate itself. This is the fortress no enemy can breach, no setback can topple, no storm can destroy. So carve this truth into yourself as creed, as law, as identity. My mind is my fortress. Believe it fully, live it daily, embody it without compromise. For the man who builds such a mind holds in his hands the ultimate key to becoming the strongest version of himself. From here, the path leads naturally to the body, for the throne of the mind must rest on a foundation of flesh and bone that can execute its command. And when both are forged, mind and body together, no power on earth can deny the man who wields them as one. Moving into the 8th chapter, we turn to the vessel through which every command of the mind must flow, the body. The mind may be command, but the body is execution, and a sharp mind imprisoned in a weak body is like a king bound in chains. His vision may stretch beyond horizons, but his reach falters. His will is betrayed by the very frame that should carry it. To rise into the strongest version of yourself, you must forge the body into a weapon, not an ornament. not a vanity, a weapon, precise, powerful, disciplined, unyielding. Now imagine a man entering a hall. He speaks not a word, yet all eyes turn, his shoulders square, his stride steady. His posture alone tells a story of battles endured. His frame radiates presence, a silent warning that he is not to be trifled with. This is not arrogance, it is embodiment. The body forged through discipline commands attention before the tongue even moves. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that action, not words, defines a man. The body is the first action, the first proof. Strength is more than muscle, it is stamina that keeps you moving long after fatigue begs for surrender. It is endurance that lets you stand in storms without faltering. It is vitality that feeds the spirit when the days grow heavy. And this strength is born in the daily rituals, when you train your body until it obeys the mind without hesitation. Each rep, each step, each bead of sweat is not just physical, it is testimony. It is a message to yourself. I can push further than yesterday, and in that proof, confidence is built. Your workouts become rituals of devotion. Your sweat becomes sacrifice laid on the altar of discipline. Your discipline itself becomes testimony that you're willing to carry yourself with honor even when no one is watching. Seneca said, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity." Training is chosen adversity. You embrace it, and it embraces you back with growth. Train with intensity. Eat with purpose. Rest with strategy. Each choice either sharpens or dulls the weapon that is your body. Think of the warriors of history, the samurai who honed their precision with each cut, the legionnaires who endured endless marches beneath armor, the gladiators who fought not for spectacle, but for survival. They did not train to look strong. They trained to be ready, to dominate, to endure. Their bodies were not decorations. They were instruments, armor, tools of survival. The same mindset must be yours. Train not for mirrors. Train for life. Train so that when demand arises, your body does not betray you. I recall meeting a craftsman whose hands were worn and scarred. When asked why he continued to work with such intensity into old age, he said, "So my spirit does not forget that it can endure." His labor was not just craft, it was proof. Each strike of the hammer, each ache in his body told him he was still capable, still rising. This is the truth. A strong body builds a strong spirit. When you feel yourself growing stronger, you begin to see yourself as capable of enduring anything. And that belief is strength itself. Do not neglect this. The body is the foundation that supports the throne of the mind. A weak body drains the will. A strong body feeds it. When you discipline the flesh, you discipline the mind. When you conquer the body, you conquer fear. Each rep, each stride, each bead of sweat declares one truth: I rise. Your body becomes your armor, your foundation, the silent proof of your presence. It speaks for you before you speak for yourself. But remember this: it is not about comparison to others. That is a fool's contest. It is about mastery of yourself. Compete only against yesterday's reflection. Lift heavier not for pride, but for proof. Run farther not for praise, but for power. Endure longer not because you must, but because you can. Each victory over yesterday is sovereignty. Each conquered limit is proof of command, and here transformation begins. You stop seeing training as punishment. You begin to see it as privilege. You no longer dread the burn. You hunger for it. You no longer resent the weight. You welcome it, because you know every ounce of effort is melting weakness and forging power. You crave the struggle, for you understand it is the crucible where strength is born. You begin to look at your body not as burden, but as blade, forged with fire, sharpened with discipline, tempered with resilience. Picture this: a man who has trained himself so thoroughly that his body and mind no longer argue. His will commands, his flesh obeys. He has turned himself into a living weapon, unshakable, unstoppable, undeniable. When he walks, people feel it. When he stands, people notice. Not because he boasts, but because strength emanates silently from every fiber. He has proven himself sovereign over his own body, and thus sovereign over himself. So carve this truth into your creed. My body is my weapon. Live it, embody it. For the man who forges his body into a weapon becomes more than strong. He becomes sovereign, and sovereign men are the ones who shape the world. From here, with body and mind aligned, we step toward the next mastery, the command of time itself, the resource more ruthless than any enemy, the battlefield upon which every destiny is won or lost. Advancing to the 9th chapter, we arrive at the summit where all roads of discipline, strength, and clarity converge. You may master your mind, forge your body, command your energy, and endure storms. Yet the question still lingers: what remains when you are gone? Legacy is the answer. It is the shadow that walks when your footsteps are no longer heard. It is the echo of your presence long after your voice has fallen silent. Now imagine standing at the end of your days, looking back at the trail you carved. Ask yourself, will it vanish with you, or will it remain as a path for others to follow? Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What we do now echoes in eternity." He ruled an empire, but he was speaking to us all. Legacy is not the applause of the moment. It is the weight of your actions pressed into time itself. A father raising his children with strength and wisdom builds legacy every morning at the table. A leader who lifts others beyond their own limits builds legacy in every decision to empower rather than dominate. A warrior who endures hardship without bending inspires others to endure, and that endurance becomes legacy. None of this is carved in speeches. It is carved in action, in silence, in the grind of days when no one is watching. Legacy demands intention. Every choice must serve a higher purpose. Every effort must align with something greater than comfort or fleeting reward. The man who builds legacy does not chase quick victories. He plants seeds. He waters them with consistency. He accepts that the tree may grow taller after he is gone, but he plants it anyway. Seneca reminded us, life is long if you know how to use it. The use he speaks of is not consumption, it is construction. I remember a craftsman who spent his entire life building a bridge in his village. He laid stone after stone for decades, though he knew the river would not be fully crossed in his lifetime. When asked why, he said, "So my children will walk farther than I did." That bridge was not just stone, it was legacy, and it outlived him by centuries. Legacy is not about being remembered by many, it is about being remembered deeply by those who mattered. It is about shaping lives, not headlines. Even if only a handful recall your name, but they live stronger because of your example, then you have written yourself into eternity. To live for legacy is to weigh your words, your habits, your actions, not just by how they serve today, but by how they shape tomorrow. Legacy changes everything. It changes how you train, because you no longer move for vanity, you move to embody strength for decades. It changes how you work, because you no longer chase quick wins, you build structures that endure. It changes how you live, because you begin to see yourself not as one man, but as the seed of a future. Legacy is the crown of strength. Everything else builds you. Legacy ensures you remain. But understand this truth: legacy demands sacrifice. You must endure discomfort today, so your future self and those who follow stand on stronger ground. Legacy is never cheap. It asks you to rise above trivial distractions, to align with what is timeless, to let go of what dies quickly in exchange for what lives on. This is why legacy is power in its highest form, because it forces you to live beyond yourself. Picture the day when your body has grown old, your hands slowed, but your influence still moves through generations. That is the art of legacy. That is the crown no storm can steal. So carve these words into your being: I build what outlives me. Live by it, act by it, stand by it, because the man who lives for legacy cannot be erased. His strength is written into eternity. From here, we turn to the next chapter, the discipline of brotherhood, where the bonds you form with others become another pillar of strength that carries both you and them beyond what either could reach alone. Advancing into the 10th chapter, we meet the adversary no sword can pierce, no shield can block, no man can escape. Time. It does not bargain, it does not slow, it does not return what it has taken. It is the most ruthless force in existence, and yet it is the very material from which a life of power is built. Every second either builds you or buries you. The strongest version of yourself understands this. Mastery is not about halting its flow. Impossible. It is about commanding how each moment is lived. Now, imagine your life as a blade placed in your hand each dawn. Sharp, finite, irreversible. Some wield it with precision, cutting away what does not matter, carving their path into history. Others dull it against stone, scattering it on distractions, letting the edge vanish, until years later they wonder why they remain unchanged. Which one are you? The answer lies not in what you hope to do someday, but in what you cut away today. Seneca once wrote, "It is not that we have a short life, but that we waste much of it." He spoke not of hours, but of squandered attention. Most men treat time as if it were infinite, pouring their days into trivialities, scattering their energy into empty pursuits. But the Stoic warrior treats each hour as sacred territory. His calendar is not decoration, it is a battlefield. Every distraction is an invader. Every triviality is a thief. He defends his hours with the same ferocity with which he guards his dreams. I once knew a man who lived as though time was endless. He delayed every ambition. Tomorrow, he always said. Tomorrow became years. Years became a lifetime. By the time he looked back, regret was the only thing that had multiplied. Contrast him with another man, a builder who carved stone every day with devotion. He knew he would never finish the entire cathedral himself, but each cut he made laid foundation for generations. That cathedral still stands, a monument to purposeful time. His days were finite, but his legacy eternal. To command time is not to trap yourself in rigid schedules or lifeless routines. It is to align each day with your highest purpose, to ask with each action, does this bring me closer to the man I seek to become? Does it feed my body, sharpen my mind, strengthen my mission, extend my legacy? If not, it is cut away without hesitation. The disciplined use of time is not about doing more, it is about doing less. With precision, it is about quality of action, not quantity of activity. Think of the warriors of old. No empire was built in a single day. No soldier was forged in a single battle. Every great victory was the product of years of preparation, countless days of unseen labor, the slow compounding of deliberate time. Your life is no different. Your empire is your body, your craft, your mind, your presence. Time is the resource that fuels it all. Wasted, it leaves you hollow. Invested, it makes you unstoppable. Picture a man who rises each morning with intention. He does not drift. He does not surrender to chaos. He knows what matters, and he cuts away what does not. His hours are spent building strength, studying wisdom, preparing his body, sharpening his focus. Over weeks, his momentum grows. Over months, his progress compounds. Over years, he becomes inevitable. People look at him and say, he makes it look effortless. They do not see the war he fought each day to protect his hours from thieves. They do not see how he wielded his blade of time with relentless discipline. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think. This awareness is not meant to paralyze. It is meant to free. To live as if each day were your last, not in indulgence, but in precision. To let mortality sharpen your purpose. To rise with the knowledge that time is not guaranteed, and that each day wasted is a treasure burned. Commanding time does not mean you chase urgency and panic. It means you live in alignment. You know what matters. You honor it. You cut everything else. You guard your mornings like sacred ground. You protect your nights from meaningless noise. You let your minutes serve your mission. And when you do this, what seems impossible to others becomes inevitable to you. For the man who multiplies effort across weeks, months, years, builds a momentum no rival can match. Think of your hours as bricks. Each day you place one carefully, steadily, without fail. Alone, a brick seems small, but over years you build a fortress. Distractions are gusts of wind against stone. Wasted time is shattered brick left on the ground, but disciplined time is structure. It is permanence. It is power. Do not squander it. Respect it. Guard it with the same intensity you guard your dreams. Command time and you command life itself. For time is not money. Money lost can be earned again. Time lost is gone forever. Every moment is a decision. Build or bury. Create or decay. Rise or remain. Etch this truth into your soul. I command my time. I command my life. Let it be your creed, your law, your compass. For the man who honors time bends fate itself in his favor. And as you master this force, you prepare for the next law, the power of brotherhood, where the strength of others becomes fuel for your own ascent. And together you rise beyond what one man alone could ever reach. Entering the 11th chapter, we arrive at the truth of company, the hidden force that shapes a man's path. Solitude tempers the self. Yes, it builds the inner fortress. It clears the noise. It makes you face yourself without excuse. But no man climbs forever alone. The ground you plant your feet in, the circle you walk among, the voices that speak into your ear, these will either elevate you or erode you. The strongest version of yourself knows this without question. Greatness is not forged in isolation alone. It is forged in the fire of brotherhood, in the crucible of shared standards, in the gravity of strength that pulls strength higher. Now imagine two different tables. At one sit men who waste their hours, grumble about their fate, and deflect responsibility like it is poison. Their laughter is hollow, their stories stagnant, their days identical. Stay there long enough and mediocrity seeps into your blood. Weakness becomes normal. You mirror their habits without even noticing. At the other table sit men who wake with discipline, who train their bodies, sharpen their minds, and pursue their missions with intensity. Their eyes carry focus. Their words are deliberate. Their very presence demands you rise to meet them. Stand among them, and you're pulled upward by their gravity. Which table you choose is not entertainment, it is destiny. Marcus Aurelius warned, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Change thoughts to company, and the wisdom holds just as true. For human beings mirror what surrounds them. Habits spread, attitudes spread, standards spread. You may believe yourself immune, but sit with men of weakness long enough, and their excuses will echo in your own mind. Stand among men of discipline, and their resolve will stiffen your spine. I once knew a man who dreamed of greatness, yet stayed in the orbit of those who mocked his ambition. Each time he spoke of what he wanted, their laughter cut him down. He began to laugh with them at himself. Years later, he admitted his dream had died not from lack of skill, but from the slow poison of his circle. Contrast him with another man I met, who traveled miles from home to find a teacher stricter than he could bear. Brothers, harder than he thought he could endure. He told me, when my fire dimmed, theirs kept me burning. Today his strength is not solitary, it is multiplied. Not because he depended on others, but because he aligned with those who demanded he rise. Understand this clearly. Your circle is not for comfort. It is not for idle chatter. It is influence. Every conversation either builds your empire or drains it. Every alliance either sharpens your blade or dulls it. That is why you must be ruthless with your environment. Seek those who sharpen you. Align with those who live with honor. Stand among those who demand more of you than you demand of yourself. Mentors who have walked the path further than you. Brothers who refuse to accept weakness. Companions whose very fire makes your own burn hotter. But do not twist this truth. This is not about using others, nor clinging to them. Brotherhood is not dependency. It is alliance. It is the union of men who could stand alone, but choose to stand together, multiplying their force. One flame flickers, many flames become ablaze. Brotherhood fuels resilience. Shared vision creates momentum that cannot be stopped. Together, strong men become stronger still. Iron sharpens iron, and only friction forges steel. Plant yourself in soil where strength is culture, where ambition is the expectation, where excellence is the minimum. For greatness cannot grow in soil polluted by mediocrity. And, as much as you seek such men, you must also become such a man. You must be the standard. The one who walks into a room and raises it by his presence. The one who holds discipline so firmly that others steady themselves against it. The one who proves that strength is not noise but steadiness, not arrogance but consistency, not domination but example. Legacy is not only in monuments or wealth. Legacy is also in the strength you awaken in others. A father who teaches his son discipline plants a tree of resilience that outlives him. A brother who refuses to let another man surrender becomes part of his legacy. A leader who raises the standard for his circle raises the destiny of all who walk beside him. That is the quiet truth of power. Your greatness is multiplied when it ignites greatness around you. So understand this final law of brotherhood. Surround yourself with strength, and you will never walk alone on the path of power. Surround yourself with weakness, and you will never rise above mediocrity. Choose with wisdom, for the company you keep is the future you are writing. Etch this creed into yourself. I walk with strength. I rise with strength. Because the man who chooses his circle with wisdom chooses his destiny with certainty. And from this brotherhood, forged in discipline and fire, we step into the final chapter, where all laws converge into one truth, the state of being untouchable, the crown of every rule. the sovereignty of a man who can no longer be broken. At this stage, everything converges. 12 paths, 12 pillars. Discipline, focus, resilience, consistency, solitude, energy, the mind, the body, time, legacy, brotherhood, all threads in a single tapestry. Woven together, they form one truth. The strongest version of yourself is never an accident. It is not gifted, it is forged. And once forged, it becomes something the world cannot touch. Now imagine a storm tearing across a mountainside. Trees snap, rocks slide, valleys flood. Yet the mountain remains unmoved. The storm rages, but it cannot shift the peak. That is what it means to be untouchable. Not that the storm never comes, not that you are spared its force, but that you stand when it passes, steady, sovereign, inevitable. To be untouchable does not mean you escape struggle. It means struggle cannot break you. It does not mean you avoid pain. It means pain cannot define you. It does not mean the world bends for you. It means you bend yourself until nothing can bend you further. Seneca once wrote, "Man is not affected by events, but by the view he takes of them. The untouchable man lives by this law. The events come, but his view remains unshaken." Picture the man who knows himself completely. He commands his emotions as a general commands his troops. He carries himself with such presence that no insult diminishes him, no rejection weakens him, no failure brands him. He does not need to prove himself to the crowd, for his only competition is yesterday's reflection. This man is free, for no chain can hold the one who has mastered himself. I once met a soldier who had seen too many wars. His body bore scars. His hands trembled with age. Yet when he spoke, the room grew still, not because of his rank, not because of his medals, but because he radiated something no loss had taken. His presence whispered, "I have faced the fire, and I remain." That is untouchable. The untouchable man is sovereign. He rules his own mind, he disciplines his body, he commands his time, he honors his legacy, he walks with strength beside brothers of fire. He is not swayed by applause, not shaken by scorn. His foundation lies too deep for the world to crack. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This realization is the crown of the untouchable. To become this man, you must embody the rules step by step, day by day. You rise before the world asks you to. You train when the body resists. You focus when distractions claw at you. You build not for today, but for decades. You honor silence as much as the battlefield. You choose companions who sharpen your blade. You plant seeds of legacy with each decision, and with each act, you layer brick upon brick into a fortress the world cannot breach. Understand this: untouchable is not a title. It is not given. It is a state you claim. The man who becomes untouchable no longer needs permission to exist with power. He no longer waits for mercy or fairness. He knows fairness is a fable whispered to keep men tame. He knows mercy is rare in the world, and still he does not bend. He does not beg. He does not yield. He walks forward immovable. Picture the battlefield, soldiers scattered, smoke choking the sky, chaos in command. Yet in the center stands one man, calm, unbroken. Around him, the world shakes. Within him, there is only command. That is the untouchable man. He may be wounded, but he does not falter. He may stumble, but he does not collapse. He may bleed, but he does not surrender. His spirit carries the weight his flesh cannot. Being untouchable is not coldness. It is clarity. It is the refusal to let outside storms decide your inside world. Fear becomes alertness. Anger becomes fire. Pain becomes wisdom. Every emotion is energy. The untouchable man bends that energy into power, never letting it scatter into weakness. He does not deny the storm. He uses it. From here, the question is not whether you can become untouchable. The question is whether you will choose it. Not tomorrow, not someday. Now, in this moment, each breath, each step, each decision is a chance to embody these truths, to rise above what weakens others, to step out of reach of mediocrity, to claim sovereignty over yourself. So stand in the mirror and say it, not as hope, not as dream, as law. I am untouchable. Write it in your heart, etch it into your mind, live it in your actions. Because once you believe it fully, once you carry it as identity, the world will no longer hold power over you. Struggle will not break you. Pain will not define you. Failure will not diminish you. You will remain steady, unshakable, inevitable. This is the final command, the last law, the crown of all others. Become untouchable, and you will hold in your hands the ultimate key to becoming the strongest version of yourself. For when a man forges himself in this way, he is no longer merely alive. He is eternal in presence, eternal in power, eternal in the mark he leaves behind. And nothing, no storm, no enemy, no fate can ever touch him again. So let me leave you with this. The question is no longer what the world will give you, but what you are ready to claim for yourself. Every rule we have walked through leads here to a single truth. You are the one who decides what you become. Not tomorrow, not someday, now. What will your creed be? Speak it into existence. Write it below as your oath. 3 words. I am untouchable. Let it not be a phrase you whisper once, but a truth you return to every morning, a vow that steadies you when the storm rises. Say it with conviction. Believe it until it becomes the rhythm of your actions. Live it until no setback, no rejection, no fear can take it from you. You are no longer waiting for permission. You are no longer hoping for someone to come and lift you. You are no longer bowing to weakness or distraction. You are stepping forward into power, into presence, into the version of yourself that has been waiting to rise. And when you walk this path, something changes. Obstacles lose their weight. Distractions lose their hold. Fear loses its teeth. Because the man who is untouchable is no longer defined by what happens around him, but by the command he carries within. If these words speak to you, stay with me. Subscribe so we continue building this strength together. Leave your creed in the comments and let it echo through your life. Remember this as you go. You are not just surviving, you are becoming. And in the next lesson, we will go even deeper into the path that keeps you unshakable no matter what rises against you. Your turning point is here. Claim it. You are untouchable.